that you took the time, Abhinav, and that you are about to share your story with me. We had a little chat up front, and I'm happy to have you here, and would like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Abhinav. I I run this company called Orangewood Labs. Started out as a company which, in my parents' basement where we were building furniture using a home-built CNC and started selling that furniture to mostly co-working spaces. But we realized like while we were building furniture using CNC, when we started scaling that, we realized that we need to not just have a CNC machine, but every other machine which can build the whole furniture. Without that, it doesn't work. So that's how we got into robotics, like building robotic arms. And this is what we are building right now. And what we are now doing is to basically create like a full AI-based solution where you could just tell the robot to do something, it starts doing that. And we're trying to make it like more affordable for most people. Like even students should be able to afford it at some point of time. So that's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. And as we had a little chat up front, I was telling you that I'm always interested in the person behind the company. Later on, I would like to dive into because I have a few questions regarding the company. You mentioned some things, for example, the democratization of robotics, making it more affordable, more accessible. But even though you gave a little glimpse into how the company come together, maybe you can go a little bit back in time and tell us a little bit about the younger person behind the company.
Absolutely. So I was like, as a kid, I was very interested in cars. And yeah, and my like I didn't have a car growing up, so we were in New Delhi. That's a very dense city, and we did have very good infrastructure, very good. You'll always have like a public bus going to take you places, very good taxi system. Um, so I never, so we didn't have a car like while I was growing up, and then but I was like really fascinated. So when I started studying, I was very fascinated by Henry Ford, how he built
Hmm.
like the whole Ford Motor Company and how before that it was very hard for people to get cars. And then suddenly, assembly line production, and then it became democratized and so many things, so many new things came after that. So I got enrolled into mechanical engineering because
Hmm.
I thought I'll get to build there. But when I got into college, I realized, okay, there's more of like theoretical problem solving, which they teach you, not, enough to do with your hands or actual building. So I joined a lot of those, student clubs where they'll do competitions and make simple things, simple stuff. And I wasn't like super happy. So I really wanted to like build a car because I knew there was like a student competition which used to happen in Germany where some students would go. So there was like another school in Delhi which was sending, their team to Germany for that. And when I was in the first year of my college, I was trying to, rally people around this. Hey, we should be doing this as well. But basically everyone said, hey, we can't do it. We don't have money, yeah, that's too much of work. I want to like maybe do MBA after this or something of that sort. So I was a bit discouraged at that time, but yeah, I was like, okay, if I go and become the president of this club, or like if I am the management person in this club, I'll make this happen. And I did that. So when I was in the third year of college, um, we were, you know, the the Baja competition, the BAJA, which is like where you make a off-roader, a single seat off-road racing vehicle, that came to India. And
What a great opportunity.
yeah, exactly. And this is like 2006, 7. So basically, YouTube is a very small place. Whatever you can read from the internet, like even internet is a small place. So we've just like, I think just a year ago, we got the computer and the internet connection. So it's just
Crazy.
learning from some other people who have documented it. Nobody was like, we didn't have automotive engineering in our school. So whatever we could learn, whatever principles we could use, we basically built an off-roader for the competition. And it was a four-wheel drive. That was India's first four-wheel drive vehicle for that category. So
Crazy.
um, yeah, that was like a lot of fun. It gave me so much confidence. We obviously made like a few blunders. The first time when you build something, you're very idealistic. You could design something on CAD, but then it doesn't really transforms into like an actual product. And this is like pre 3D printers. 3D printers were like not even a thing at that time, 2007, 8. Um, so we ended up like building a small car, and that went to the racetrack. We didn't end up like going on the final track because there were like serious safety issues. But then
Mm.
that like we learned so much.
How big
And
was the team then?
at that time the team was I think 10 people.
Mm.
Yeah. And my idea was okay, if let's say these 10 kids who have like maybe zero skills, everything they learned was like just by doing it with their hands within like less than 1 year, and they can build something like this, if they can prototype something like this, what if you put like a whole process to it? And so I was thinking like, hey, we could like actually build a car. Or you could actually build something like a, car company. And the opportunity kind of came to me. So then I started working for a company in this city called Gurgaon, which is right next to New Delhi. And that's where the automotive hub of India is, automotive hub of North India is. So you
Mm-hmm.
have like the Suzuki's biggest plant in India there. And then because of Suzuki, there were like so many other companies, so many ancillaries. So I was working for one of the suppliers in the R&D department. And this is like, by the way, 2008. So, uh, uh, the financial crisis had hit. And I remember I was like almost 5 months into the job. And uh, I was given an option, hey, could you like maybe take a leave for some time? And I was getting really bored there.
Mm.
So I already had this idea. Um, and someone, told me like, hey, you should be like traveling to rural India, to see what is happening there. Just like because they saw me with the smaller vehicle which we had built. One person just told me, hey, you should just go and check that vehicle out, which is like running in somewhere in rural India.
Mm.
So I had like made a few trips by then. So I had like some idea, okay, there's a market for if I like build something like a low cost truck, there might be a market for that in rural India.
Interesting.
So, all of these things were happening. And I was thinking, hey, I should like maybe go for a master's degree or something. This will give me more time, maybe more knowledge to build this. And so I had taken like a sabbatical kind of a thing from my company because they obviously did not want any more workers at that time. So I
Mm.
was I was writing like my master's exam. So there's like an entrance exam in India for masters. It's called GATE.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like I was 2 hours into the exam, and then the last section had those questions where you have to like do some like large calculations,
Mm.
and they don't allow calculators, so you just have to like do it by hand. And they're like, okay, dude, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, during that exam I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not worth it. My heart is in actually building this. uh if I like, I should be jumping on this part. So basically, I just sat there and then kind of jotted out like a business plan behind the answer sheet which was given, and then I just came out of the exam. I felt very liberated that yeah, this is a time when kind of knew, okay, this is the direction of my life. And
Very brave, I have to say. So to not use seeing this as a failure versus this is not the end. This is the beginning. This is even when you started saying that you were interested in cars and then you started studying mechanical engineering, I was thinking that when you said that you were a little bit not disappointed, but it was much different than what you expected, right? And I remember when I started studying mechanical engineering, they put the hardest things first, right? So they can filter out all the people. So all the hard mathematical modules are in the very early beginning, analysis and linear algebra. And the mechanic, right? Mechanic one, two, three. So there's the different kind of mechanics and construction, right? So there's in the first semester you have one person, then the second semester two person, the third like three people building an engine, right? And they're really trying to sort out all the people who don't want to do the the big and hard calculation stuff, right? And so I'm happy that you said, you know what, not so this is not me. So I want to do things, right? I mean, the calculations are necessary at some certain point, and you do need to have a certain understanding, and they are so hard, so you need to spend a lot of time on it, so you
Mm.
really understand what's behind that. But I really love that you said, you know what, this is not me. I'm this is the beginning of my business plan. So I'm yeah, very curious to hear what happened afterwards after you walked out of this situation.
Exam. Yeah. So I contacted the person who introduced me to these vehicles which run in rural India.
Hmm.
And so they use a pumps engine. So because everyone was so poor and they didn't have access to right kind of engines, it's almost like what post-war Germany used to look like, right? Like they did not
Mm.
have access, or Japan by for that matter, right? Uh, Honda basically started making their motorcycles out of engines which were supposed to be for radios.
Mm.
So they got like a lot of the auction engines to start put. He started putting them in bicycles and then started selling them off. So a lot of these the people who build these vehicles, they had access to pump engines, like agriculture pump engines.
Mm.
So they would use those engines, put them on, make a chassis out of construction material, the beams which are used for construction, and then make a vehicle out of that. And it was obviously like it was illegal. A lot of countries like India, Europe, they follow like a homologation system where you have to go to a lab to get things tested before you can put them on a public road. So, uh, it was illegal, and then they could get confiscated anytime. But then that was the only way people could travel from, far off places. And you need transportation for
A lot of
you know,
reasons. Yeah.
lot of reasons. Exactly. Taking your produce to market, going to a doctor, sending your kids to school. So, and then, the whole, what I would say uh, there were like so many things which were not happening in rural India at the time because of bad transportation. I started reading about World Bank papers, like, how they have pushed so many projects to make transportation better. How much time does it take for incomes to increase once they have a road and a way to be transported to the places? How there's like if you own a truck in a rural area, you can almost become like mafia. You can charge whatever you want. So there was like so many things which, I was able to figure out after that. And then I started traveling in to rural India. I grew up in New Delhi. It was like it's like any other city in the world, right? Like I was very much a city kid, and that was the first time I got to travel, understand like how people were doing, how people were thinking.
Interesting.
Uh, and then there were like so many people who were poor, like at subsistence level, how they are, they didn't have a lot of options, but to like maybe just travel to a city. But then so many socioeconomic problems kept coming because of not having transportation. So I was like, okay, I have a solution. Here's a problem. What if put like some time solving this? And I've already done this in as a college project. So I started a company, got like some grants, some government grants, and started building a prototype. So, and then it took like some time. It was hard. The funding was a really big problem at that time. Like this is, from 2010 to 2013, that period. So, um, even though India had like some startups, but then they were only focused on doing software. So
Mm,
my thing was very, very different. I was not even building an electric vehicle. It was like a diesel driven, you know,
mm.
old. It was it looked as if it's an old technology. So basically, I was not able to attract the investors, which I needed. Yeah, and it took a lot of time. I also like, and it became very hard after a while, right? I was very hell bent. I think I'm extremely idealist when it comes to doing something of this sort. I thought, yeah, this is my life's work, and I'm going to make it work no matter what. And it was extremely hard. Like I was poor. I was in another city where, I had been given incubation at a university. It was a design school. And it was extremely hard. Like uh, there were times when I did not have money for like, food. I was homeless for a bit. I did not have a place where I can shower. So it became very hard. But yeah, I wanted to like test myself. My whole upbringing as a, my father was working for the government, and when you have people who usually like this middle class sentiment is always about keeping yourself safe. So I wanted to also challenge that. Okay, what happens? Like, okay, there are so many people who are poor and homeless. What happens when when you get to that point? And what I realized that yes, the not not pursuing your dreams is even much worse
Having no
than even
options.
being homeless. Yeah. It's not like, you know, as like human life means something, you want to like build something. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Like, yes, obviously, like happiness can be a very uh your own happiness can be a very different thing. And then yes, I was very unhappy a lot of times. I was very frustrated, but I would still like make the effort. But yeah, so somewhere around 2015, I got a call from Y Combinator for doing an interview with them. So, and I was thinking, hey, I'll reincorporate the company in the US and then take US investors so that I can move forward with my plans. And so I came here to the Bay Area, and this was the first time I was traveling, outside of country. It was fun. What I realized that, okay, this is a place where people actually listen to you. Like if you have a dream, they want you to be more ambitious. Whereas everywhere else, you kind of are surrounded by people who don't want you to pursue your dreams because they gave up. Especially, yeah. And it's like over here, some of those people kept pursuing them, and then everyone else got very rich because of that. So the way people would think was very different. Your neighbor could be your angel investor. So I was very, I was very, um, I thought, yeah, I mean, this is a great model, or maybe this is a great place to be. And I also like took some time off. So I was broke, like I was flat broke. So I was living with my cousin's family in LA for a bit. And that was the first time I had like took a vacation, like of sorts, right? Where I wasn't working. I was just chilling for the longest time. And that
Quite a
was the time I
difference,
thought,
right? So
yeah,
quite a difference between coming from a city, being a city kid, as you said, and then going to rural India, where life is totally different. Whoever have been there, life is different, right? And as you said, attracting investors for something that is not scalable, right? So it's not software, it's hardware, and something where your potential customers don't have money, right? So they're not rich. So there's no big, there will never be a big margin, right? So two things that tells every investor who is only focusing on the money, no, no. right? And then going to the US and then coming and finding out there's people who believe in this kind of ideas, right? And that must have been quite a ride.
Yeah, I mean, we figured out a way to make it low cost. So that was the idea, and we were because once you have a certified vehicle, once it's legal, you can take a loan. So loans were available, but they were only given by loan sharks
Hmm.
because this was illegal. The moment you make it legal, the financial institutions can get involved.
Hmm.
And they had like definitely better interest rates. There was a lot of microfinance going on during that time. A lot of loans were being disbursed. So, um, yeah, I mean, I was trying to like push this as more of a social venture, but yeah, at that time, the social venture people they were like not technologists. They would
Hmm.
not understand, like, hey, why should I be spending, money in R&D because I'm like a finance bro. I don't understand. Yeah, it was hard. And I think, yeah, it's like a lot of the investment world is very much mandate driven rather than, driven by like purpose. And this is where I feel, I feel, they could have done things differently. Um, I had like a lot of customers. I remember like after quitting, even like 2016, I had like some of those potential customers in rural areas. They had my number and I would get calls from them, from like some remote place in India. They would just call me, hey, I want to buy it. How soon can I get it? And I was like, yeah, bro, I'm sorry. I had to shut things down. So yeah, that was sad. Um, yeah. And yeah, so when I came to the US, I was staying here. Then I realized that okay, I'm trying very hard for the longest time, almost like for more than a year, nothing has moved in my life. If I like plot my graph about my own personal growth or anything else,
Hmm.
uh, howsoever I'm moving, I'm not able to, you know, I'm not growing personally as well. I don't know enough. Like whatever knowledge I had, it was probably like only for this thing and nothing else. So yeah, I decided to like quit, maybe revisit the idea if possible sometime later. And yeah, I started like doing some consulting work, came back to India, you know, like did some consulting gigs. Was getting really bored by the way. So I didn't realize I was also depressed at the time. It is like for me, it was almost like, okay, I thought this is my life's purpose, and then, just not standing true to it.
Hmm.
Uh, and then this is also to 2016. There are like maybe five or six electric vehicle companies which were doing SPAC IPOs. And the electric vehicle market in India, like for especially for the two-wheelers, that has like taken off. Someone I mentored was just got funded by Tiger Global
Hmm.
for their EV company. So not mentored, I mean someone who I knew very well. So it's it's uh it's really interesting to see. When I drop the bucket, I'm like, okay, I'm done. Then it started happening like within few months. So yeah, it kind of gives you a life lesson that yeah, it only like maybe it only ends when you quit.
Hmm. And so what did you made it out of this time, right? Because now we have failure in a different environment, in a different situation. So what happened? What happened? What have you done with this failure?
So I think I learned a lot. Uh yeah, uh I think it made me the person I am. It's like there was this saying by Buddha, right? Like where purpose of your life is to find purpose of your life. And it's so beautiful, right? Like what is your purpose? And for me, I think it's to build things which makes lives better for other humans. I think that's
Beautiful.
yeah. I realized it like after going through these things where um you know like being so poor and broke while still like trying to build this, it gave me that purpose. And I think I'm gonna yeah, that's what I learned from this. Uh After coming back, I was consulting for a bit. It was fine. I was getting paid. I moved back with my parents, went back to Delhi. It was nice. I found a consulting gig very close to my house. I used to just walk there like maybe few
Hmm.
days a week. I was working from home or a hybrid like back in 2016. Sorry, 2015. Yeah. So it was nice, but then I was just I saw like, what, my motivation levels were very low. I was just putting on weight at home. I was getting food. So yeah, I put on a lot of weight. I was sleeping like 12 hours a day, zero motivation. Um, yeah, I wasn't building. So I realized, okay, it's time to maybe start thinking of the next thing which you're gonna build. So I started doing that. Like um, I I started like doing some experiments with few things, built a couple of projects, and then my parents were building a house. So they were thinking of like either buying a house or building one. My father was about to retire from his government job. So usually they get like some money when you retire. It's like it's like an investment which usually government people get when they retire. So you got like some money. So I kind of convinced them, hey, we should like maybe build a house instead of buying like a apartment. Because my selfish interest was like, I'll get like some space to build, like I'll build my workshop and then maybe a business out of there.
Nice.
So I did that, got my co-founders in, and one of the ideas which we were thinking of building at the time was, there are like so many startups getting made. All of them need office space. And
Hmm.
there are like these co-working spaces which are getting really hot. What if we just supply something to these co-working spaces? And what if we can make something quickly for them? And my one of my co-founders, he's a furniture designer.
Oh,
And
handy.
yeah, we met during my time at the design school. He used to help me out. He was a student back then. So he would always come and complain that, hey, it takes so much time for me to build anything here because of like so many issues. And it's all done by hand. So like he used to be in a company where they used to make like extremely fashionable designer furniture, very expensive stuff. So he said, it takes like 3 months for me to make a stool. I am just not happy with this. And I was like, okay, you know what? How much time does it take to make a car? Maybe, 45 seconds. So what if we could like have some level of customization in furniture and use some of the concepts which we use in the automotive industry, like do just in time. Before, like, what if you just produce only when you get an order? You don't produce anything before that.
Okay.
So that was the idea. And we started like building a CNC machine in my parents' basement. Um, we thought, it would take like maybe 15 days to make one because it was almost everything was open source. So we didn't have to do much, like apart from just finding similar material from our vicinity and make it. And I was so overconfident. I was like, okay, you know what? I've built a truck. This is something much simpler.
Okay.
It took us 5 months.
So
And
longer than 14 days, huh?
yeah, loads of wood waste. Like my whole basement was full of sheets of plywood which we did not cut in the right way, and then they were all waste. Kept going on. Somehow figured out there was a heating issue with the whole circuitry we built, and then one day just things just started working. And after that we got like order for one co-working space. Then they started like another branch. So we got that order as well. And then we got another office, a contract for doing another office. And at that time, we had like roughly $8,000 of revenue. And that's when we got into Y Combinator. So
But which project brought you into the program? Have you taken this idea and brought it to Y Combinator? Or
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So at that time, we were doing furniture using robots. Our pitch was, hey, we make beautiful furniture quickly using robots.
hmm,
So, um, and that's what we pitched at Y Combinator. We did the demo day, but when we were getting to the demo day, we did realize that yeah, we've made a machine which can make furniture very quickly, but then painting is like it takes too long. And you're always dependent on other humans who don't want to do that job anymore. They are like better off driving for Uber or, delivering for Uber Eats or similar companies.
hmm,
Uh, it started becoming hard and jobs like especially like painting, you are like always inhaling fumes. Most of the people who either do it like who are even doing it now, they don't want their children to be doing.
yeah, obviously.
So, and then I'm talking about like this city called Noida, which is on the other side of New Delhi.
Hmm.
Very industrial city. Again, you have so much of migrant laborers coming from all over India, but they still don't want to do it. So it became very clear that yeah, there would be certain jobs which people will stop doing, and then that trend has actually continued till now. So it became very clear, okay, we cannot just do one part of the process, which is like 100 times better, and then rest of the processes are same
Old
done
school.
manually.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it creates something called what we call as the line imbalance in a manufacturing line, where
Hmm.
you have one process which is very fast, but rest of it is like slow. So the end goal is not achieved. So we were thinking, okay, what is like one tool if we can build that, and what if it becomes affordable for a company like ours? Then we can have like robots for everyone. So that's what kind of inspired us to put together a first robot made out of wood. We basically CNC'd all the parts, and we had a lot of spare wood available. We just made a CNC robot arm out of that, and that would like start painting flat surfaces. So
And this is the
that's
reason
how,
why you have the wood in the orange wood, right?
yeah. I mean, oh, that's another story, but yeah, I mean, the idea was like the furniture thing to start with.
But it's a long way from the beginning of the story to here. But not only time wise and the intermediate like detours, but also now the having a CNC machine is basic. When I was working for Siemens, they produce large gas turbines in Berlin for over 100 years now, and some of the machines, the CNC machines, where you actually building the different parts of the bigger gas
Mhm.
turbine. Some of the machines were 30, 40, 50 years old, right? So
Mhm.
very old machines, but very good quality. So it was cheaper to refurbish those machines, even though it was becoming harder and harder than buying new ones because the new ones had more technology advantages, but were not as precise and accurate and robust. So this is it's an old business having these kind of CNC machines, but now we're talking about robots, and now we're not only talking about robots, we're talking about robots that are doing the things on their own without all the programming. Or maybe you can jump into that because this is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started building this robotic arm, and then it was hard. So
How many people are we talking about? How big was the company?
during our furniture time, the peak was roughly 35 people, but then we ran out of money in 2019. It
Hmm.
was very bad. Like we just did not have anything left. We had to
Hmm.
go through a layoff at that time. So me and one of my co-founders, we were in San Francisco. We didn't have anything to eat. And at that time, like somehow like our and had like $20,000 of credit card debt. So there's nothing left at all. Like we were literally okay, just maybe days away from being homeless and without food in San Francisco, which is again one of the most expensive cities in the world. And we were pitching to investors, and nobody was interested. I thought, hey, we have done YC, we have done this much. This is a new piece of technology. People should fund us. But that did not happen. Um, and so we just kept going on, like, okay, let's keep pitching. I remember there was one time we had like maybe less food available. I was again like almost into depression. Like, dude, what did I do? Like on one side, one part of my life, I was struggling for money. I saw so much of it after Y Combinator, and then I still messed it up. So I was like blaming everything on myself rather than thinking, how to do this better. And I met a couple of other founders who told me that, yeah, this is how you need to be in a position to lose money to make money. That means you need to be ready to take risk, and risks like these are fine. Whatever you have done is fine. But yeah, I was like in a very weird state of mind. And one of my co-founders, he was with me. Um, and I remember like him just reaching out to like 1,000 people on LinkedIn. Just, tuck, 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 tuck. Just like, okay, whoever might have said angel investor in San Francisco, he just reached out to them, like everyone. And one of them was this patent attorney.
Someone, who
And
was it?
one was a patent attorney who was also angel investing. So we were like,
Hmm.
okay, you know what? Like this guy has an office 1.5 miles away from our wherever we are living. So we can just walk there and then talk to him. It's like, and I was like in a very weird state, where you don't even want to try. You're like, okay, you've given up.
Hmm.
And so we went to like he just called us. We went to his office, and I was like, okay, you know what? Like I'll just be myself, and I'll just talk to him about the technology, what we're building. And he listened to us, and he said nothing. Like he was very neutral at the time. And then we were so, and after like that was probably the last meeting we took in San Francisco. We were so broke that we had to leave the apartment which we were subleasing, which we didn't pay for, by the way, at that time. We had to like tell the guy, hey, just give us some time, we'll pay you back. Or it was very weird. And then we left the city for, I left for New York for so that I could crash with one of my friends. And then my co-founder, he left for Seattle because his aunt lived there because we could not afford anymore. So, and then in next 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, I get an email from the same patent attorney. Hey, can I invest in your company, $50,000 in your company at the same
Not too bad.
valuation which you had last time? And I remember like I was jumping when I saw that email. And because at that time, I had like in my head valued my company at zero.
Hmm. 50,000.
Yeah. And then, then I promised myself I'm not never going to value myself at zero. Like it needs to be away from emotions. It needs to be, wherever it is, and it needs to be based on the potential this company has or this idea has. It cannot be always like this.
Hmm.
So yeah, but then, that was like the first time we were saved. Um, and yeah, so then we started building. I went back to India. I was we built we started building, and then COVID hit. So yeah, it was it was bad. And then yeah, we had like I mean we kept going on no matter what happened. So it was slow. That's the only thing which hurts us is like, the whole process became very slow during COVID. We had like
Hmm.
a 6 people team which were building. Uh, the current robot which you see that was designed during that time. So it still has, there were like times when we had to. take certain decisions remotely, and then the DFM has problems. Like I cannot build like maybe 2,000 units of these because it's just creates so much wastage. But we still went ahead with that. So yeah,
And maybe you can tell us a little bit about the, because it's much different, right? For building a CNC machine or a robot that can do certain things versus what you're aiming at now with your product, with your portfolio, with your vision, what you have in mind. So how did that happen? Because there's a lot of I mean, you said that there's a lot of building involved in the last now almost 10 years, or more than 10 years involved, but there is a certain level of knowledge, a specific niche kind of knowledge that you do need if you would like to build these kind of things, right? And yesterday I had a call with someone who is teaching kids about robots. So he says it's actually not that complicated, right? There's just a little bit of electronic involved and a little bit of mechanical engineering or some mechanical parts. So maybe you can give us an idea about how complicated it is what you guys are doing.
absolutely. So now like roughly around 2022, we have a product, we have a prototype which can now start working. So we started showing it off in factories. And then we realized, okay, the bigger problem with our vision, which is to basically democratize robots, is that not only it needs to be low cost, it also needs to be very, very easy to operate. The reason why, most of humans have a smartphone now, or a very significant percentage of humans have smartphone now, is because it's easy. If it was using DOS, I think the number would have been like much smaller. So there is a UX problem as well. Or, the idea of a robot was from sci-fi movies, right? Like I got to know about my first robot from the movie Terminator and then maybe Star Wars and few others. And when you try to program an actual robot, it's really hard, right? There's no difference. There's like in principle, there's no difference between a 3D printer, CNC machine, and a robotic arm. It basically is just doing this.
Hmm.
So it needs to be easier to start working on, and that's when we started like working on large language models. I did not know, like back in 2022, I did not know, though I had a invite to GPT-2, but I did not know how to use it. Like I'm a mechanical engineer, and the LLMs were at that time were not as popular. But then I went to like a uh, there was like a meetup, and I didn't realize it is just before like getting into it. And then I realized, okay, something like large language models exist, and you could start working on like GPT-2 can, based on simple inputs, can program the robot. So we started working on it, and I think right after ChatGPT came, we also came up with RoboGPT, where uh, we started basically training. We figured out a way to train robots for doing certain things, and then uh, based on an input prompt, the robot can perform a subset of those tasks.
Can you tell us a
So
little bit more about the robot itself? Because now we're talking about the programming, which is, I think, the interesting part when it comes to, as you said, having one nice is good, but you do need to control it, right? But building the robot itself. So did you guys have the experience and the knowledge, yeah, the know-how, the skills to build a robot? How is that? Because the robot that you're building and that you're trying to have as a product is, yeah, maybe you can tell us a little bit about it.
yeah, I mean, we did not have the skills. We learned everything, like either from talking to other people or other people who have built robots. And like we were in touch with few professors who have worked with robots, but basically, like if you look at the robot population in the world, it's less than, let's say, few million.
Mhm.
So not enough people know how to build them right now. But then, yes, we found like some experts who could help us out with certain things. And one of the things which we started doing early on was to templatize things, like create software which can always give you results. So now we do have like few softwares which can tell you, okay, this geometry will hit this many, this is like this particular geometry you're building. It has like a very high percentage of singularity within its work envelope. So we developed all of those techniques while we were doing this. And now that's helping us out. So um, yeah, if you're asking me like, okay, if someone is trying to build a robot, what they should think is, I'll tell them like, yeah, try to templatize everything. You should have like a whole idea, let's say a template where if if you change a certain parameter, what changes? And then you'll have like a much easier life. So
Hmm.
yeah.
The idea of bringing these into because this is one of the main ideas that were behind universal robots, right? Smaller and medium-sized companies should be able to buy a robot as well. So, and you said one of the most complicated parts is actually the operator, because you can hire a programmer from KUKA or from Fanuc or Yaskawa or all the other names, right? So you pay them a lot of money so they can program it for 1 or 2 days, and then because you're not doing all the time different things, right? The majority of time you would like to have doing it one thing, building one product. And so the programming part is actually just a small portion of the, let's say, production process, right? But there's the operator who will stand right next to the robot every single day, like 2 shifts,
Mhm.
3 shifts. So, and this guy, he knows basics maybe. So, but as you said, the user experience, the user interface, it needs to be as simple as possible. And these monsters were having these kind of codes, right? And so you do need to read, and every single robot has its own code, right? So and if you're not going on the sub level where you can program with C plus or whatsoever, so you do need to have the certain program language that the robot model or the company is giving. So as you said, the democratization comes on the operational level as well. And yeah, I'm much interested in how you figured out to provide that in a tablet or in yeah. What is your approach here?
So we're still not there where we want to be. One way
Hmm.
is like, go fully sci-fi, right? Just tell the robot to do something in natural language. You do that. The problem with that approach is like humans are also not serious, right? Like we could be, prompting something wrong, or what if we make a mistake? So typing the prompt actually makes a lot more sense than just saying it. And what we have also found out is you don't need to program it almost every day. You just need the ability to change it. And also, like, if I don't have to call an engineer. So one of the biggest questions, like one of the main concerns of our customers is like, do I need to hire another engineer for doing this? And now the problem is like, the world doesn't have enough robotic engineers. Like that's a very simple fact. That's why they're probably paid like some of the highest software engineering jobs are actually robot engineers. And so for us, I think what we realize is like you still need to like give a simple enough UX, but people need to feel that yeah they are in control. They can do
Hmm.
this. It's almost like getting a new smartphone. Uh, these are like the smartest computers. Like I remember the if you ever would have bought a computer in 2010, your smartphone is actually more powerful than that. But then if you look at the number of people using that computer versus number of people using a new smartphone, there's a significant difference. And the reason for that is because people think they can operate it.
Yeah,
There's nothing called operating a smartphone, right? It's
yeah.
yeah.
It's using a
So
smartphone.
using. It's the same way, you'll use a hammer or maybe a kitchen equipment, not operating. So I think that's where we need to get to, where people start feeling like as if they're just using it to do something. Um, what we haven't figured out is like, how do you train the human to do that? If even if it just becomes prompting, what if they are prompting something wrong? At least large language models are not smart enough right now to understand the intent. So that's where where we feel the next thing needs to be. It could be like uh, for now we are restricting them to do a lot of things. But then it also creates like its own problems. Like what if there's an edge case which you cannot do and only a very
Yeah.
strange prompt is the only way to go forward. But because of your restrictions, the robot does not understand it. So we were still figuring out. The best part is for the easiest of the use cases, this is really good.
So what are the use cases that you are covering at the moment?
So we are doing painting, we are doing visual inspections, we are doing pick and place. Palletizing is getting added very soon. So
And
uh,
visual inspection, what kind of camera do you use?
mm, so we work with, we are actually camera agnostic. We work with other companies who are doing visual inspection. We just give our mechanical robot. Like we take care of the locomotion.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So it's actually the visual inspection part is not the Orangewood part. The Orangewood part would be bringing the camera to the place where the visual inspection takes place.
exactly. Yes.
Hmm.
So we are integrating all of these solutions. I think moving forward, where we want to be is the system integration part right now is entirely manually driven. And
Hmm.
that's where, you know, like the whole inefficiency of the robotic system is. Right now, if any company anywhere in the world wants to get a robot, it's going to take anywhere between like, 2 to 3 months. If it's a new application, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
it
yeah.
might be like a smaller time if it's already been done, but it's still there's commissioning, it's like as if something needs to be installed, commissioned, all of that. What if it's just as easy as buying a smartphone? So we want to like get to that point.
The thing is, and more companies, when I was on your website before our call, I saw that there was a safety sensor kind of yeah, approach. I do know that there's a lot of companies, the company I'm working for included, is trying to work on these things, and we do know we have a lot of requests when it comes to these things, because as you said, there's not only the part of installing with the integrator, right? The majority of customers want a turnkey solution. So there's you buy the robot, nice. Now it's
Hmm.
affordable, nice. But yeah, sorry, you actually need someone who is implementing it at your place. You need someone who is who is how do you say this in English? Gives you a certificate that this is done the right way.
Hmm.
And then to add on, and you only get this certificate if you can prove that it's safe, right? So actually, you need to pay the integrator, which is double the amount of the robot, or
Hmm.
which doubles the amount of money, and then you need to make it safety. So this doubles the price again. So now you have 20K for the robot, nice. So you need 40K or 50 if you would like to include an integrator, and then you need another 20, 30, 40K for the safety, right? So even with a 20K robot, which is very nice, not 150, not 100. So even not 50, it's 25, but you're still coming back to the 100K because I'm exaggerating now a little bit, but with the security, with the safety, right? Because you do need sensors, you do need a cage, you do need things where you can step on. So there's so many different
Hmm.
things that you can use, right? But as I was seeing there was the safety sensor. So I think this will be the next level that it can securely ensure that if anything happens when there's a human, there will be a stop, right? So I'm very keen because this cannot be done by, as you said, there's robots, there's robot programmers who can program the robots. And I think now we're coming to some things that are even much harder to do. So I'm very keen for what happens for Orangewood here. What are your plans?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our aim is to democratize robots. We should be able to use robots. Kids should be able to experiment with them in school, not even like, undergrad level, but in school they should have access the same way they have access to computers. And for
Hmm.
that, you need to make them extremely safe. You want to make them such that, they can maybe talk to a robot or maybe just program it using prompts or, think about like the process more than think about like what they can build rather than, we just bog them down with intricacies of writing code.
Benefits versus features.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, yeah, because robots was always a tool. It was never like a destination, right? Like all what we're trying to build is like tool to do better work. And so
Hmm.
that we don't have to do like so many humans are doing jobs which they should not be doing. So many tasks like, you know, we
Painting.
waste so much of time in doing things. We should be doing so much. Like we should be exploring Mars, or we should be finding ways to, cure hunger or do other things. But right now we are just doing factory jobs. Like so many humans are just involved in doing that. All that time can be saved, and people could be doing so much more. And the abundance which we create from robots, that can be used to subsidize everything else in the world. And
I,
that's where we need to get to. And I believe, AI plus robots is going to bring us there. We'll we'll basically get rid of a lot of friction which happens in the robot sales process, or robot installation, or using a robot. Uh,
Are you able to share? Are you able to share some numbers? Are you able to share some insights? Because as you're still a very young startup, the early ages are very important because you have customers that don't have any knowledge. That
hmm.
some of the customers they don't have any capacity in because they're building things and they make money with that. They would like to have innovation, but there is no capacity for innovation whether it's resources, money, whether it's resources, operator, right? To care about these things. I see it with a lot of customers. They're using bachelor students, master students who are in charge of the innovation projects because the other people are in charge of making money. So here I'm interested in if you're able to share who are your customers and how is the volume, how's business going, basically.
So we are about to hit profitability. That
Hmm.
is, I mean, we were not aiming to be. I don't think startups should aim to be profitable because, you could grow. But yeah, we want to reach it for like at least for proving it to ourselves that yeah, this can be a profitable business. Um, and we have just like delivered 4 units to a large public company who are using it for painting, one of the some sports goods. So they also subcontract for a very large company.
Mhm.
They're a textiles company, um, but they make a lot of composite rackets and other things for other larger companies. So we just sold them 4 painting robots. So it's the business is actually like taking off. It seems like it's taking off. We've been able to deliver good quality products. Uh, yeah,
And
but
your
yes,
main
I think
market
it's
is the US?
so it's US and India at this point
Mm,
of time.
okay.
So these are the two markets which we are going for. We are present in these two markets. The best part is regulation is little bit easier than Europe. So I don't
Yeah.
actually have to get like a. So the only safety certificate I need is from the factory. Um, from the factory safety officer, not, someone who's at a district level. So that
Mm,
kind of changes the whole game. You can put most of these machines with very low friction. And
interesting.
yeah, so, and we're aiming like, so we're about to like invest a lot in technology. We'll be having like a bigger production line now. So till now, like it's all been like, hand built, even at like a prototype scale or even at a production scale, it's all like hand built. Our engineers put them together. But
Mm,
yes, now we are like moving into a more production kind of a setup. Yeah, that's where we are.
I, the majority of startups that I'm talking to at the moment, because the buzz is very hot. I started this podcast in January, so very often at the end I say this, and I think in the last episode I said it again. And so I would love to have another call in 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, because the first few years are very crucial, right? You do need to have a good product. You need to have a very good running team that is having the same vision. You do need people in the team that is able to execute. You do need to find customers. You do need to find partner who will help you developing the product further, and you do need to yeah, you do need to make money, right? In the very end, even if it's a loss when you're a VC funded company, as you said, there's the purpose is not making money, the purpose is growing, right? So, but it's hard to push out a good product. It is hard to develop a product that is really, and now we are in the buzzword again, to give value to the customer, right? And the value that the customer is able to see. And yeah, I'm very happy that you took the time, Abhinav. And
Uh, Absolutely.
I'm, I'm happy that you didn't gave up and that you found ways of surviving a few times, and that you are in yeah the beginning, hopefully, in a long success story. And I wish you good luck. I would love to visit you one time. And we are planning to go east and west as well. So east would be Japan, the Asian market, but the US as well. And maybe our paths will cross. And I would love to see your lab actually. So I do know that you guys are sharing a lot on social media. So I'm always very happy to see what you guys are doing. But yeah, maybe we can have a look at it in reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so the best part is right now, if you look at where the market is, it looks very similar to what the automotive market was after the World War One.
Mm,
Everyone was competing, but everyone was collaborating as well. And I
mm,
think the spirit of Silicon Valley, which I think the world should be taking more of, is that healthy cooptating instead of competing, right?
mm.
Because there might be some company which is doing so much better in one thing, but then they might not be able to do everything. And world needs more robots. I think we need to be like, as robotic companies all over the world, startups, bigger companies, everyone needs to think on those lines. We are attacking the problem of unproductivity across the world and human suffering. And uh, if we could like work together, that would be awesome. Yeah.
It's a great goal. So let's just hope that we can figure it out. Let's hope that we can get the AI to help us and the robots to help us fulfill this mission. As you said, there's a lot of potential and there's a lot of jobs that need to be eliminated. Even though I'm not talking too much about this because this is now gets very political. We do need to think about all the people that have the only option are these very low skilled labor jobs. So what we're going to do with these people, because freeing seems good, but there's still, even though it's very little money, there is money involved, right? So what we're going to do with people that are working these kind of jobs. But I think this will be for another. This will be for another call, maybe for another
Yeah.
podcast, not mine. Yeah, thanks again for taking the time. Say hi to your co-founders and talk to you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to like, do this in person as well sometime in future.
Take care.
Yep. Bye.
Bye bye.